Yeah, hello friends. So I hope you all are ready, right? So whoever is present, can you just please ping in the chat, like whoever is present? Okay, great. Okay, so let's start our today's class. So today we will see a OOPS concept, but via a project. Okay, so we will see the different folder structure, how we manage a folder structure in Python or any FastAPI backend application, and how we can use the OOPS concept in these things. So let's start. So today, before going to the OOPS concept or the project, let me give you a brief idea of how the folder structure will look like in today's application. So let's say we have one user. Okay, let's say if this is a user, and let's say this is our Python application. So this is what I am telling, the folder structure, how the folder structure will look like. Then here we will have the first file is the main.py. So this is like an orchestrator. Okay, so we have seen in an orchestrator group, right, that the main orchestrator will instruct the different instrument or the musician how to play a music. Okay, so this is the main orchestrator, the main file. Then from main it will go to different service file. Okay, so there will be a multiple service file. So this will be the different service file that will be available there. Let's say this is service A, this is service B. Okay, then this is service C. Okay, so think this service as different instruments. Okay, musician. Like say service A is the guitarist, service B is the pianist. Okay, so like this every group. Okay, with their individual task. Service A will perform some task, service B will perform some other task, service C will perform some other task. Okay, so it will go like this. So it will be from here, here, and here. So from service file, the data will go to the repository file. Okay, so every service can have a single repository or multiple repository. So repository file. So what is this repository? This repository file is used to connect with different data source. Okay, so data source can be anything. It can be a database, it can be a Excel file, it can be array or anything. An external data source, it will connect to that. So each service can have a separate individual repository with those connected. Then let's say this is repository A, this is repository B. Okay, like this. So what I told, this repository will be connected to a backend service, okay, or a data source. to a data source. Okay, and this from the service, the data will go to the repository. Now this is the basic flow, but apart from this we will have some different file also. So what are those? Among that, one is environment file, so that is .env. So what is this .env file? Here basically we put all the data that is very private or the value that will be shared throughout the application. Okay, some important data, the configuration data like the API key value, JWT secret, all those type of things we keep in this env files. Okay, then we'll have one config file. So what is this config file? So from the env, the config file will read the values. Okay, so whatever the key and value we have specified in the env files, that will be read in the config files. So then we'll have some other files, that is, let's say, logger file. Okay, so this logger file is nothing. With the help of this logger file, we can log. Okay, we can log in file, we can log in some third-party service, or we can just simply print in the console also. Okay, so this is the logger file. Just to let you know, all these files, let's say logger, config, for example, the config value. The config value can be used in any of these files. Okay, it can be used in service A also. It can be used in repository file also. Okay, or in service B, any file. Logger also the same concept. Logger can be used in service A, repository, service B, repository B, anywhere. So these type of files which can be used throughout the application, those things we kept in a separate folder that is known as core folder. That is known as a core folder. Okay. So what does this core folder will contain? This core folder will contain all those files which will share their logic with every files throughout the application. Okay, those type of files we keep in the core folder. And another concept that we need to know, whatever the file we keep in this core folder, just try to make those files as a singleton file. Okay, just try to make those files as singleton. So what is singleton, friends? So singleton is nothing. Suppose if we have a class, let's say class of logger, and if we create 10 different instances of that logger, let's say L1 equal to logger, this is one instance. Like this, if I create 10 instances of the logger, it will create only one object. The object will be created only one. Okay, so this is a singleton concept. So even if we create multiple objects, the object will be reused. Okay, the first time one object will be created, that object will be reused by the other 9 instances. This is known as a singleton. So try to make a singleton files whatever we put in this core folder. Why? Because suppose let's say in service A we are creating one instance of this logger class. Okay, in service B also we are creating an instance of this logger class. So what will happen with the increasing of the service or repository file? Let's say if we have around 50 service file and 50 repository files, that means we are creating around 100 instance of the logger file, which is not needed, right? Because the logger one instance, with one instance of logger we can log that. So creating 100 instance, it's just wasting our memory. Okay, let's say if one, let's say assumption, if one instance is taking 1 MB, that means 100 instances is going to take 100 MB of our memory location. So this is not a suitable solution. We should go with a singleton pattern just to make sure the memory is not wasted. So this is the whole flow, friend. Like this, we are going to create our folder structure. If any issue with this folder structure, let me know in the comment section. So now let's go in the projects part now. So let me make a folder day3. So before creating a project, it's very much important to create a virtual environment, okay? Because virtual environment, here we can install the different dependencies. So let me give Python -m venb, okay? So venb is the command and this is the name we are giving to the virtual environment. So let's wait, it will create a virtual environment, okay? So see, the virtual environment has been created. Now let's activate this virtual environment. Okay, Subodhi is asking, what are you making, bro? Yeah, so today we are just trying to create one small project by using the different OOPS concept, and we are also going to see how a folder structure will look like, okay? We are going to create a folder structure that will be used in any of the backend application, like in the FastAPI or in Flask. How a folder structure will look like, we are going to see that today. Okay, now we are going to activate this virtual environment. So how to activate this virtual environment? So for that, you can write source, then the virtual environment name, then scripts, then activate. So see, now the virtual environment is live. Okay, now we can start our coding. Okay, bro, tell me in short how to make own API and integrate into the backend. Okay, so basically, Subhadeep, in the backend itself, we are going to make APIs. Okay, so APIs are nothing. Just think of this as a normal functions. Okay, and with a definite endpoint. So with that, we are going to create APIs, and that we need to expose. Let's say. So for creating API, you need any of the framework. Okay. So let's say we will be using FastAPI. So this is the framework we are going to use. In the FastAPI, we need to create different routes and the service file, and that we are going to use. So in today's class, actually we are going to see the Python. So the same folder structure how we are going to use in the FastAPI. But in the near future, we will see how to create a FastAPI and how to use that in an API. Okay. So basically, to create an API in a short form, you need to install the FastAPI. Then you need to create different endpoints, and then you need to return the response from the endpoint. Let's say you can return the array, object, anything from the endpoint. So by that, you can create your own API. But when I will explain that in the FastAPI next classes, you will have a clear picture how to make that. Okay, now let's open the VS Code. So in today's class, we are going to see the folder structure, which is mostly used in the FastAPI. Okay. Now, as per this image, how to start? So to start creating, first we need to make our env files, okay, the environment files. In the environment files, we will keep all our data, okay. What are the different data available? We are going to keep that there. And let me tell you one thing, friend, don't push the environment file into your Git. Okay, so this will be a secret. You need to configure all the values of environment file in your server separately. So let's create a .env file. Let me zoom it a little bit. So for env, we need to write .env. This is the extension, and here we can add different key value pairs. Let's say we are going to add app environment. Let's say what is the environment? It can be production, development, like this. Okay, so let me for now give it development. Then we can use some log level. So what type of log we are going to see? Let it give me info level. We can give some app name also. Let's say give an app name. Let's say my app. Okay. So we have added some of the information of our project level into the .env file. Okay. Then what we need to do after this env? So from the env, all the values will be read from this config file. Okay. The config file will read all the values from the env. So how to make that then? And another thing I have told you, friend, this config file, logger file, all this will be under this core folder. No, buddy. So we are going to use the FastAPI. Okay. So the FastAPI is the latest framework of Python, and in FastAPI we use most of the FastAPI framework for our GenAI projects. So we are going to use the FastAPI for the API development. Okay, so now we will create our config file. So we have seen, right, the config file will be in a core folder because these are the files that will be used throughout our whole application. So let's create a core folder. But before the core folder, let us create an app folder. Okay, so all our application code will live inside this app folder. So let's create a folder that is core folder. Now inside the core folder, the first file we are going to create is config file, config.py. Now here we are going to read all the value from the CNV file. Then how to read values from the CNV file? For that we need a package that is python.env to read the env file data. Okay, so for that let me install pip install python.env. So what will this do? This package will help to read all the environment key value pairs into any of our files, okay, with the help of this python.env package. So this package has been installed, and to maintain this package in our code, what we can do? We can write pip freeze, then requirements.txt. So with this command, what we are going to do? We are going to create a requirement file where all our dependencies will be tracked. Okay, see, we are tracking the python.env and along with the version. So later on, if you wanted to update any version, we just can came to this file and can change the version, update it or degrade it, whatever. Now in the config file, we need to read the configuration from the CNV. So how to do that in a oops way? So for that we need to create a class, right? Let's say class config. For now, in the config file we are going to read. So let me tell you one thing. To read any of this file and to create any of this configuration file or any model file, we are going to use the data class option or a property from Python. So from where we can import it? From data classes, import data class. So if you wanted to know what is data class, in the last lecture I have already told you what is data class and what are the use case of this. You can look into that video. Okay, so how to decorate it, the data class? So in the config we will just use a decorator data class. So let me tell you in a gist, if we use this data class decorator, we are not going to use that init, then the default some of the magic methods like init, then representation. All these magic methods are not needed. It will be auto implemented with the help of this data class. Okay. So here we can directly write the logic. Let's say we can write, let's the app environment. Now from the app environment we need to write. So how to write this app environment? So for that we can use two different ways. We can write OS. So we need to import an OS module from OS. Sorry, not from OS. It will be import OS. So from this OS module we can get that, and also to load the environment. So we need to also import from Python. Let's say from .env import load.env. Okay, and then we need to call this method load.environment. So what it will do, it will load the environment file. Okay, it will load this environment file into this file, and then from this file we can read all these key value. Okay, this app environment, log level, app name. How? So with that OS module. So what we are going to read? So app environment, this will be of type string. So we can write os.getEnv, and then here we are going to give the key name. Okay, so in the environment, what is the key name we are using? AppEnv, right? So we will be using AppEnv here, and along with that, see what is the issue it's giving. It's giving type str or none is not assignable. Okay, because it's telling if there is no this app environment key is present, then it will give me a none, right? But the type I have assigned there is string, so there is no none type. So for that we need to give a default value. Okay, so this is the second value, that is the default value. So here the default value I am giving is as development. So if suppose this key is not present, the development, the default value will be assigned here. Like this, let's create all this log level and app name. Then log level, it will be of type string, and the same concept, os.getEnv. Then the key name. So what is the key name? That is log level. And then we can give a default value. Let's say for now I am giving info. And then the app name. It will be also a string. Then os.getEnv. Then the key name. And then a basic, like let's say a blank value. Okay, like this. So till now, friend, let me know if there is any issue or not. So let me know, friend, if there is any issue or not. Okay, so let's continue then. Okay. Now, here, okay. Now here, what we are going to do? Here we are going to create an instance. Okay, so as I told, try to make this class as a singleton class. Okay. So singleton class, we can make a class singleton in different ways. Here we are going to see one way. So one way is we can write config equal to, we can say config like this, and then we are going to use this config throughout that whole application. Okay, or we can assign it to another variable, and we can use this app config. So what will happen? Only one time this object will be created or instance will be created, and this instance we are going to use throughout the our whole application. This is one way to create a singleton class. Okay. Now to check if that happened or not, we can write app config and let's try to run this. Let's say Python -m then app.core.config. See why I have written, so Python -m means a module. So which module I wanted to run? So where is our file located? It's located in the app folder. That's why I have written app. Then under that the core folder, that means .core, and then the config folder, right? File, sorry, the config file .config. So see, the config file is showing here. So here we have all the values. App environment we have development, log level you have info, and the app name is my app. So what it's taking? This is taking all the value from this environment file. Okay. So in this way we are getting all the value. But here one concept comes. For the security reason, let's say if you try to modify some value here. Let's say if I change the app name, let's app config dot app name equal to, let's say, random value, and if I try to run this, see the app name is now random value. So what do you think, guys? Is this a good approach to change the configuration value or the environment value? Let me know in the comment section. Is this a good practice to change the value of a environment file in any of the file? Like here we are modifying this app name. Whatever the environment file has, we are just modifying the value here. Is this a good practice? What do you think? Okay, Sanjay is saying no. Anyone else? Any idea on this? Okay, so yes, so this is not a good practice. We can't change the value in any of the file. Okay, so how to prevent this? To prevent this, in data class we have an option called frozen equal to true. That means we are telling don't change this value later on. Okay, see now we are getting an error. We cannot assign or reassign the value here. So with this we are just telling don't change the variable value or this data class property value anywhere. Once it has been initialized, don't change it. So in this way we can secure our environment files. Okay, so now our configuration file is ready. Let's go to our next code section, that is the logger, where we are going to log the data. So what we need to create? We need to create one logger file, right? Then we are writing logger.py. In this logger.py we are going to create our app logger. So what we can do here? Here we can write class app logger. Okay. Then here we can create different methods. Okay. So for now, let me tell you one thing, how the logging actually occur. Okay. So to log, there are different log levels applicable. Okay, so what are the different log levels? That is debug, then above debug there is info, then warning, then error, and then critical. So these are the different log levels. Okay, so why this greater than sign? That means info has greater value than debug, or warning has greater priority than info. Okay, this is the order we maintain. So For this, let's say in our application, let's say what is given, log level is info. What does this mean? It means try to print all the log which are from info to the greater one. Just ignore the less priority one. We are setting the priority. Take the priority from info, and if any priority above than info, log those things only. Don't log any priority below that particular thing. If I tell here log level warning, then what will happen? Then it will take warning, then whatever the priority greater than warning, it will log there, those things only. Okay, not that below things. So how to create that? So for that, first we need to create a enum. Let's say class log level. Okay, so how to create a enum? So for that we need to import from enum import. So we are going to give some value to this debug info warning, that will be integer value. So we are going to write here int enum. Okay, we are going to inherit from this int enum, and then we are going to assign the value. So let's say if give debug a value of 10, info a value of 20. So these are basically the generic values, but it can change based on the different libraries. Okay, then warning, let's say in warning we have 30, then error, in error we have 40, and the critical. So we have created a log level as an enum property. Now we will use this enum in our app logger. Okay, so how to do that? So let's first create our constructor def init. So in this constructor, what we are going to set? We are going to set the log level. So from which log level we are going to display? Okay, is it from info or warning or error? That we are going to set. In log level, this will be of type this log level, whatever the enum we have defined. Then we can write self dot log level equal to log level. So here we are going to set the log level. Let's say user send warning or error into the value, we are going to set that. Then let's create another setter method. Okay, set log level for a safe side. This will also have the same logic. Okay, so suppose later on I wanted to change the log level. This is for the initialization time, and later on if I wanted to change the log level, for that we are going to use this set log level. Now we are going to create another function, that is should log. Okay, so here we are going to use self and the level log level. So what will be the function of this should log? Let's say you have set your log level to warning. Okay, and somehow the log that is coming is info. So what do you think, friend? Will info will be logged if you set your log level to warning? Will the info and debug will be logged? You can tell in the comment section. Like say if here my log level is warning and somehow the level is coming as info or debug, will it be logged here in the application? No, it will be not logged. Why? Because see, info and debug has lower priority than warning. For that reason, this will not get logged. Okay, so that is the functionality we are going to add here. So here what we are going to see, so here we will return exactly warning Devanshu, correct? Yeah, warning error and critical error, correct. So here what we will do, Here we will write label. If the label is greater than equal to whatever the log level we have set here, right? Self.log level. If the label is greater than equal to this log level, then only we should log. Otherwise, we shouldn't log. Okay. This is the syntax we are going to add in this logger. Okay. Now we have to create a different logger. Okay. This debug, info, warning. So this is how all the logging libraries work. So let's add those logging function separately. Def, let's say debug, self, and then the message, which will be of string, and then here we are going to log, right? So for log, let me create a separate function, def log. Then here it will be self, then the label, let's say log level, and then the message. Okay. So here I will just check this. If self dot should log, and here we are passing the label. Okay. If this is true, like if this pass, then only we should log, right? So what we wanted to log? Let's say you wanted to log the message along with the current time. Okay, what is the current time? At what time the log is happening? That time I wanted to display. So for that, let me import the datetime library from datetime. So this is a library for Python for all the date and time related operation. Okay. Import datetime. So here first let us get the current time, right? So that is now equal to. So how to get the current time in Python? That is datetime dot now, and then we are going to format it. Okay, to format the datetime, there is a function, this str f time. Okay, so it is going to, in a string format, it is going to give us the time. So what we want, basically we want the year, month. You can add any other parameter also, but let's say the day also. Let's see day, and then you also want the time, right? Then hour, then minute, and then I think, okay, second. So let's say this is the format I wanted to print. Now how we can print? Like for now I am using the print command. Later on we can change this. Okay, we can make this that this data will be logged into some file. Okay, we can put this in a file or logger file like that. But for now we are printing it. So we are going to use the format string method. Okay, so here we are going to print now. Then at what level? So level dot, let's say the name. Okay, so what is this label? Label is a type log level, right? And name is basically the value, this value. Whatever in the left hand side, these are the name property. Okay, and these are the value properties. So you wanted to know, is this debug, info, warning, what type of log it's logging? Then that one. And let me give it some space. Okay, so here I will give print space, and then the message. Okay, so this is the log function. Now we can use this. So what we are going to, for the debug, so debug we can write self.log. So what is the first parameter is expecting the label. So for debug, what will be the label? That is debug label, right? So we can write log level dot debug, and then the message. So whatever the message we are going to pass. So like this, we need to create all the function for this info, warning, error. So let me create info and error. Okay, just for example, def info. So you can copy paste this thing. So here instead of debug it will be info, and then another one is, let's say, error, then log level error. Okay, so we have created our logger file. So now we need to instantiate it. So how to do that? Let's say we can write logger equal to app logger. Okay, so here in the app logger it's asking what is the log level. So default log level I wanted to add. Okay, so how we can do this? So for that, in the config file we have already the log level, right? So what we can do, we can import that. So how to import? In the top you can write from app, from, so we are going to give the whole path. Okay, app, under app we have a core folder, and under core folder we have this config file, right? Import. So which one we are going to use? We are going to use this app config. So see, this app config is basically the configuration, the singleton configuration that we are going to use throughout our application. App config. So here we can write app config dot the log level. Okay, now what it's telling, it can't be assigned to log level. Why? Because this is of type enum, right? So we are going to fix that later on. So for now, let me make it a string. Okay, for now let me make it a string, but this will not work. Let me change it here itself, I think. So here we can give, just a second, or just a second, let me, instead of log level, there is another way. For now let me give log level dot let's say what value to give, let us give that, or maybe we can give one environment or this thing. Let me do one thing. So here let me remove from here for now this initial one, or here let me give the default value log level dot info. Okay, for now let me remove it, because what we will do later on, based on the environment, if it's development environment we are going to set the log level as info, but if it's a production environment we are going to set the log level as warning. Okay, that we will do later on. So for now let it give a default value of info. Now our logger file is created. Now let me create for the singleton app logger equal to logger. So one thing, friend, we can also create a singleton file like this, but there is another approach by using a new magic method. Okay, that we will discuss later on. Using that also we can create a singleton file. So here the logger file is ready. So for till now, any confusion or anything you wanted to know, friend? Yeah, let me know in the comment section. Okay, so let's test once if this log file is working correctly or not. Okay, so what we can write, let's say app logger dot, let's say I give info. Okay, so what is the message I wanted to give? Test info logger. Let's run this file once. So how we can write? Then we can write Python -f app code. Now instead of config, we'll write the logger file. See, we are getting the output, the format. So first it's getting the date and time, then what type of log is this, info warning or that one, and then the message. Okay, so let me remove this column. It's looking a little bit bad here. Instead of 10, let me give it a let's specify. Yeah, now I think it's okay. Now it's giving the date time, the log message, and what is the message we are going to print. So now we have created our logger file. Okay, now what? Now let me tell you another thing. So whenever the data is going from service A to repository or the data source, we need another file, that is model. Okay, so model is basically nothing, a model file. So model will contain the structure, okay, how the data will look like. Okay, so it will, like, from the repository or the service, how the data will look like and what type of data we are going to store in our data source, that we are going to define in the model folder. Okay, so how it's happened, let's see that. So let's create another folder, models. So let's create a user model, user underscore model dot py. So what is model? Let me give you a brief in backend how we use it. So let's say this is user. User is sending some data, okay, to the backend system. Let's say this is the backend. Let's say user is sending email some value a@gmail.com and password some value. But from backend in the data source, let's say this is the data source. Okay, this can be database, file, array, anything. Here we want the data to be stored like this. Here we want the data as email, then password, and then the created at what time the value is created. Okay, so extra value, right? So what type of information we are going to store in the data source, this type of information we are going to create in our model file. Okay, that information is going to stay there. So here, for let's say in the user model, we are going to create one dummy user model. Okay, so what type of user data we are going to keep there. So let's say we will create class user. Now one thing, friend, let me tell you one thing. If this is a normal simple class that will only contain some variables and some simple logic, then always go for data class. Okay, because data class give us some extra functionalities, like we have seen here, right? We can force the value, so we don't need to write extra that init method, representation method, all those things. Okay, this will be automatically handled by this data class. But if it contains very huge logic, business logic, then don't go for the data class. Use normal class and add your logic. Okay, since the model will only contain some of the variables, okay, or data and some small logic, for those things we will go for data class here. So what we can write, from data classes import data class. So what are data class? Please see my last lecture, there I have explained what is data class, or you can see any other videos also, okay, for the data class. Then we can decorate it with data class. Now let me tell you, see, let's say currently we are going to create one user. Okay, let's say in near future we will create some other user also. Let's say class admin user, or not like this, sorry, class admin user. Let's say class customer. Okay, these will be all the user type, right? So in user we will have ID, in admin user we will also have ID, in customer also we will have ID, let's say. So this is repeating code, right? Every class we are going to have some ID. So this is not a good way to repeat our code. So for this type of concepts, we can go for inheritance concept. So what is inheritance? So based on the inheritance, we can inherit the attributes and the methods of the parent class to the child class. So that concept we are going to use here. So how we can do? So we can see in the Pydantic also. In FastAPI or in Flask, we are going to use Pydantic for this model. So there we are going to use the same concept. Okay, this is the core concept that we are going to use there. So what we will do? We will create another data class and we will call it, let's say, class user base. Okay, user base model. So here we will have all those attributes which will be shared by all the classes. Okay, this user classes, that is ID, which is of type int. So another thing, friend, whenever you are using data class, always mention the data type. Okay, what is the data type of that attribute? And then let's say we will have one created at. So this will be of type date time. So we can import from date time, import date time, which is of time date time. Here we are going to use another concept, that is field. Or not seen from date time, sorry, it will be from data classes. So what is this field, friend? So in data class, what will happen? Suppose if you create 2 different instance of this or 10 different instance of this user base model. So this data, date time, list, dictionary, okay, which are mutable data type, they will share the same value with everyone. So I will give you one example. Let's say this is one class, let's say user, where we have some value, let's say ID of int. So int is immutable, right? So every time you create an object, this will be reset. The immutable type will get reset. Okay, but if you use some mutable data type, let's say list, mark list, which is of type list, okay, an array or object. So suppose if one object is adding one value, the same value will be referred by all the other object. Okay, the other object will not get a default of blank list. So for that, what we need to use? We need to use the field property, so that every object will get a phrase, a blank value of array. Okay, so for that we are going to use the field property, and here we are going to use this default factory. Okay, default factory means what is the default value each object or instance will get when it will be created. So that will be datetime dot now. Now the base model is created. Now we can inherit the base model in our user class. This is user base model. Now here we can specify all the other attributes that are required in this specific class. Okay, so what are those? Let's say username, okay, which is of type str. You can directly use the blank string property like this, or you can use the field property also. Okay, like how you can use this field, then default equal to blank string. Okay, anything, but this is not required. You can directly use blank string. Then let's say email, which is of type string, which is of blank string. Then let's say there is another property of isActive, which is of type boolean, and the default value is true. Okay, so one thing, let me tell you, if this is a normal class, if we don't use data class, this will act like a class variable. Okay, these are all class variable, but for data class, these are not class variables. Okay, these are instance variable. All these are instance variable. Then how to define a class variable in data class? So for class variable, let's say here, let me create another variable, let's say default domain. So what will be the default domain for this user? Let's say the user is registering for some organization. Okay, let's say XYZ organization. Then the default domain will be xyz.com, right? So this is a class level. So the class level variable. Okay, so every object of this user should have the same value. So for that, we need to mark it as a class variable. We need to give the type as class variable. How to give this? So there is a typing module in Python. So from there we can import class var. Okay, this means it will mark the variable as class variable. So here we are taking this class var, and this is of type string. And let's say what will be the default value? That is xyz.com. This is the default value of every user. If suppose the domain, okay, if we wanted to set the domain of this user, then that will be xyz.com. So any issue, friend, till here in this model, how we are creating the model, how we are using this inheritance concept, so and how we are using this class variable in the data class? Any issue till now? Let me know in the comment section. Okay, let me then go forward. So in data class, what I told, the constructor property, that is def __ init, this will be automatically implemented by this data class. Okay, so for data class, there is one special method, magic method or a dunder method available, that is def post _ init. Okay, this is a special magic method. This will be only available when we are using a data class. So what is this post init? When this will be called? So this will be called automatically after this data class has called the init method. Okay, so that means it will be called automatically by the data class after generating the init method. Okay, so what is the use case of this post init? So here we do all type of validation. Okay, because in the init method we are doing initialization, right? After initialization we are going to do the validation. All those type of validation we are going to do in this post init method. So let's give you an example. What type of validation? Let's say if the username is not available, then we need to raise some exception, right? Then we can give that type of validation, like if not self dot username, okay, or let's say self dot username dot strip, because if user gives some blank space, so that's why we are stripping. If there is no username available, then raise an error. Then raise, how to raise an exception here or error? So you will use a raise keyword and then the error, let's say value error. Then let's give the username cannot be empty. Okay, like this. Then we can assign if self dot username equal to self dot username dot strip. Let's say we are converting into the lower also. Okay, so in this way, in the post init method, we are going to check some validation. Okay, I'll show you some other example also. What are the different validation we can do? So these are basically, okay, repeat default. Just a second. Domain, please. Okay, so default factor, this one you are asking, Sanjay? Okay, default domain, this one. So default domain is basically nothing, Sanjay. This is a class level variable. Okay, let's say default domain is, let's say it's a company, organization. Let's say this is TCS, right? Suppose if any of a user is going to register, what will be the email default domain? It will be tcs.com, right? So that is the thing. Default domain is a class level variable. So basically, if any user is getting registered using here, so this is the default domain that will be registered. And why this is class level variable? Because every object or instance that is created from this user will contain this tcs.com. So suppose if in near future the company name changed to let's say TCS Mega, so every object will be changed. Okay, since all the object is sharing this default domain, as this is a class level variable, it will be automatically updated in all the object. Okay, so that is the default domain basically. Okay, so let me give you another example of here. That is, so currently these are all, this is basically a magic method. Okay, so how to create a static method? So for static method, we can use a static method here also. Let's say I wanted to check an email validation. Okay, so def, let's say is email valid. So here what we need only email, right? So here this email, what is this variable is email valid dependent on any variable class level, like any user can pass any email. Okay, so we just need to check the email and let know is this a valid or not. So for checking this, we are not dependent on any other value, right, or any other value change. So for this type of method, we can mark this as static method. So here we can write return just the logic. Let's say we will check if @ present in email or not. That's it. Okay, if @ present, then it's a validator. Then here we can give a validation for the email also. That is, if, then how to call a static method? To call a static method, if not, we need to use class name dot the method name. So what is the class name? User dot is email valid, and then we need to pass the email. So if email is not valid, then what we are going to do? We are going to raise a value error, invalid email. Okay, like this. So you can do two ways. Either you can raise an error like this, or you can import the logger from app let me segregate a little bit. Dot core dot logger import app logger. So what do you think is validated? These are error, right? So here we can write app logger dot error and then the message user cannot be empty. Okay. So like this also you can raise error, you can log the error, you can raise the error also and log the error also, okay, for debugging purpose. Now we will create some instance method. So what are the different instance method? Let's say we will create one method deactive. Okay. So here what we are going to do, where if this active we are going to change that. If it's deactive then it will be false. We are deactivating the user, and then let's say we are going to log that. Okay, app logger dot info. So what we are going to give, let's say formatted string user, let's give the username self dot username has been deactivated, and let's give another dev activate self, the same concept. So here user has been activated. Okay, so like this we have created our model class. Okay, so in model class basically all the data, how the data will look like, and any type of validation regarding the data we can use in the model class itself. Okay, so this is the model class, how we can design our model class. So till now any issue, friends? Let me know if there is any issue or not. Okay, so let's test this user model. Okay, so for that let me create user1 equal to user. Here we are giving id1, then okay, not user, so what is this? Yeah, username test user, then okay, I am in 12 now, not interested in JE, but I like coding and build many projects. Can you guide what else I can learn which will benefit me while going college? Yeah, sure, Subodhi. So you can ping me in the Discord. You can see in my channel there is a Discord group. You can join in the Discord and you can personally ping me there. Okay, then we can check on this. Okay, I will definitely try to guide you on that. Please join the Discord group for that. So let me give an email. Okay, so paste@gmail.com, and is active, these are default value. Let me print the E1. Print E1. Let me clear the screen. So now let me write. So now where is this file? This is under this models folder, right? Then app.models.user_model. Okay, see, now it's giving me error. What is the error? It's saying username cannot be empty. So why this is giving username cannot be empty? So this user, if not self dot username, it's okay. This is telling the username is not there. Let me check that. Okay, so let me do one thing. Instead of underscore, let me like this. And okay, first let me give a blank value and let's see what it's giving first. Okay, so now what it's giving, that value username cannot be empty. And see, this is coming inside the info. Okay, test info logger. So where, oh, that is the test file and the error. So username cannot be empty. Why? Because we are giving this app error. Okay, so this is the post init. Like after initializing the value, it's coming into this post init method and then it's going to log. Okay, and then what is this error? This error is basically we are raising a value error, right? For that reason, this error is coming for here. Okay, it's giving line number 50. So this one basically and data class. Okay, no issue. This is what we find. Now, if I check this email one, now see it's created at the date time. Username is test, email is test@gmail.com. Now, if I try to remove this at the rate and let me try. See, now it's giving value error, invalid email. Okay, this is because from here to here, this is because of this value error. We are raising the error, and if we wanted to log it, then what we can give? We can give a logger here. Then invalid email. See, now in this error, in the log file, we are getting one log, right? At what time the log has happened, what is the label, is this information error anything, and then that is invalid. So in this way, basically we can create our model file. So today, let us keep up to this, friends. So in the next class, I will try to complete this whole project. Okay, so next class we will create the service file and the repository file, and then we will connect everything and it will be completed. Okay, and the main file, everything will be done. So today we have seen how to create the folder structure as a production level, how to create the models, how to create a logger file, how to create a configuration file, and how to read from an environment file. Okay, and then we have also seen the concept of this data class and how to log the file, everything. In the next class, we will complete this whole project. So till now, any issue anyone facing or anything, you can ping in the chat if any issue, anything. So this folder structure is very much important, friends, because this is the way we are going to create our API project also in the backend. We will create logger, configuration file, environment file, model file. So one thing in model file, it will be much more easy because we will be using Pydantic there. But still, this concept is very much needed. Okay, if you know this concept, then you can also customize that Pydantic file. Okay, I hope there is no issue, right? So just try this, whatever we have done today, just try to create everything. So you will also gain the knowledge how the flow is working, and this is the flow we are going. Okay, and also in the next class we will also see how to create the singleton. Okay, how to create this logger as a singleton using the new magic method. And then next class we will create the service and the repository, and then we will connect everything and the whole project will be done. Okay, then thank you friends, thank you for this session. Hope in the next class we will complete this whole project and you will gain the knowledge of object oriented programming and how to use that in a Python. Thank you friends. So if any issue, you can ping in the Discord group. Okay, in the Discord group I will try to answer your every query. Okay, just join the Discord group and any query just ping me there. Okay, thank you friend. Bye, good night.